Hey, what's up? Leroy from NoiseGate here. In this video, we're going to take a look at building a track with 5 of our favorite features from Live 11. Let's take a look. So the comping feature allows you to organize individual audio or MIDI takes into separate lanes. From there, you can capture individual portions of either of those lanes into an entirely new take. And this is an absolute godsend for anyone who's a vocalist or plays any kind of instrument. However, if you're none of those things like I am and still want to use the comping feature in a creative way, let's take a look at using it using loops. So I have this channel set up here and there's currently nothing in it. However, if I press Option Command U on my keyboard, it will display any of the take lanes that I have loaded for this audio track. And if you don't have one set up, you can just left click on the channel and just go Insert Take Lane and it will create a new one. Now you'll notice I've already got 4 loops already loaded into this take lane. Let's take a listen to how they sound individually. They're all just percussive loops. And what I want to do is I want to create like a hybrid loop out of all of these loops. And before I move on, let's just grab one more loop and drag it into this bottom of the channel that I've already created. Boom. Sounds like this. Cool, so what I'm going to do now is I can just quickly select little portions of each of these loops to kind of create this new interesting hybrid loop out of all of these loops. Here we go. So I'm going to be completely random here. Absolutely no method to this madness. Select Enter every time you select a region. Nice, let's take a listen to that. Cool, that sounds pretty good. Let's grab that, select it all, Command J to consolidate. So I've got a new region and let's create one more. Oops, here we go. Oh, I forgot a bit right there. Nice, cool, let's take a listen to that. Awesome, now I'm just gonna go and consolidate all of those and loop both of those regions together. Now let's listen to that with kick drum. And a hi-hat. Sweet, that is an absolute revelation to me as far as being able to quickly dice up smaller parts of audio to create a really interesting sequence. One of the hurdles I often face when I'm creating music is generating an idea that will inspire the outcome of a track. In Live 11, there are a few features that are built directly into the clip view that can help us generate new ideas. Features like inbuilt scales mode and the ability to randomize velocity and probability of notes throughout a sequence can help generate new musical ideas. Let's take a look. Cool, so I have a MIDI track loaded up here with an instrument rack on it with an instance of operator, sounds like this. Very cool. And I'm gonna go ahead and create a MIDI region here. Shift Command M creates the region. Boom. Now, first off, we can see there's an inbuilt scale mode built directly into the clip view. This pretty much replaces the MIDI scale effect that I've always been using for ages, which I'm really happy to part ways with because I always found it a little bit clunky and never really kind of understood how it worked. Maybe that's just me. Maybe you're better than I am, I don't know, but this works a lot better for me. So what I can do here is I can select a root note and a scale, and on the piano roll in Live, the colors will sort of quantize to all the notes that are in key with that particular scale and root note. So I've already got something kind of strange set up here, a Hirojoshi scale, and you can change it from you can choose any of these scales here selected. Let's just keep it on the A Hirojoshi scale for now. And with this scale button over here, we can choose whether we want the piano roll to focus exclusively on the notes that are in that key and scale, or we can deselect it and it will display all the notes that are outside of that range as well. So if you want to add in any ghost notes, but let's just leave it locked to that for now and just start punching in some random notes. Well, it's probably a little bit too high at the octave range for a bass line. Let's go down here. Here we go. Boom. No, not there. How's that sound? Let's listen to that. Maybe punch one more in there. And loop that region. And let's create another one. So we've got 2. Shift, Command, M. Oh. And let's loop all those together. Cool, so that there in itself is absolutely amazing to me, and I could pretty much just end the video right there because that just speeds up my workflow so much quicker. However, for the sake of this video, let's show a few other cool things. To create a little bit of spice in this sequence, let's try randomizing some velocity levels to make the sequence sound a little more interesting. If you click this little icon here, it will display velocity and chance. For now, let's just stick with the velocity. And if I select all of the notes, I can change the velocity of all of the notes, and it will audition the velocity value as you drag it up and down. Now, first and foremost, it's a lot easier now to select the individual velocity levels. Before, it was just a small dot that you had to zoom right in and check out and get right on it so you could drag it up and down. But now you have this little tab and you can just kind of grab its handle and drag it up and down. So if I bring this all the way up to the top, what I can do is I can go over here to the velocity range and bring the velocity range down and randomize the velocity values between that range. This button here is the randomize button. Let's bring the randomize amount down a little bit so we're not doing too crazy. Say 50, randomize. Cool, there you go. It's randomized all the velocity values. This again will replace the velocity MIDI effect that I've been using in Live 10. I can just do it directly in the clip view. Cool. Now we can make this sound even more interesting by adding some chance or some mathematical probability that a note will occur every time the playhead plays. Again, if I select all of the notes, bring the chance right down to say 50, there's a 50-50 chance that each note will trigger or play every time the playhead rolls past it. So there's like kind of like a continuous generative kind of like sequence now. But again, we can actually randomize the chance as well to make things even more interesting. So if I bring that up to 100 and select randomize, say to about 50 as well, hit randomize, it'll randomize all of those chance events. So you could use this to create a little bit more consistency, but still have some dynamic variation, or you could just go completely crazy with it. And have some really interesting new evolving patterns over time. So if you're a fan of motion sequencing on Volcas or parameter locking on Electron gear, this one's certainly for you. The variation feature allows you to take little snapshots of parameter states on your macro level on instrument racks. Let's take a look. So staying with this instrument rack, I have a bunch of macros that are mapped to effects within the instrument rack. I have an echo, reverb, delay, and drive. By itself, it sounds like this. And as I play through, I can start to add some effects as I go. these macros are essentially just mapped to the on-off of the effect and the dry-wet. But the variation feature allows you to create little snapshots of individual parameter states for your macros. So say I wanted to increase some reverb on that and add some echo. I could go here, click new, and take a little snapshot of those parameter states. And I can cycle through multiples of them as I go. Let's just hear how that sounds. Now that is absolutely amazing to me because I really love the ability to just quickly snap in different parameter states as if I was using like a hardware drum machine or something. But what I really want to do here is kind of automate these individual parameter states. And to do that, all I really need to do is just hit record and just trigger these variations as I go, and it will just record that as automation. Let's check it out. Cool, now play that back and it will just play that automation back from those variations. This could be used in multiple ways, literally just for recalling parameter states that you really like, or as a performance feature to recall some parameters live on stage. If you're looking for some more glitch and jittery effects in your life, then the Pitch Loop 89 is probably for you. This is a super sweet little MaxForLive device. Let's check it out on this vocal loop I have here. All right, so here is the Pitch Loop 89 MaxForLive device. I've got it on this little vocal loop here, which sounds like this without the effect.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
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 Super groovy. Now I'm gonna kind of like mangle this up a little bit and make it sound pretty twisted using the Pitch Loop 89. I'm gonna pull it in now, turn it on, and essentially it's a tape delay style kind of looping effect, which gives you all kind of possibilities for mangling the sound and giving you crazy pitching effects and all sorts of things. It's a stereo effect, so there's a left and a right channel. You can link or delink them both, and you can apply freezes to the sound. So let's just have a listen to how it sounds in its default state.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
So it just kind of sounds like a real subtle delay to start with, but let's start bringing in the freeze function and changing the loop regions.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
So we have the loop feature here, which will loop a region of audio wherever the playhead sees that audio. And to position, we'll choose or scan through the position of that loop, and the segment will change the length of that loop.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
Okay,
We have an LFO here, which will modulate the loop position.
okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
Let's dance.
And over here, this is our bandwidth as well, which kind of essentially changes the pitch or slows the looped region right down.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
Okay, let's dance. Okay,
Now, if I delink the left and the right channel, I can start to get some even more interesting effects.
okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
This back feature will reverse the loop, and the short feature will kind of give it more jittery effects.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
Okay, Let's dance.
Gon' rock.
Okay. Let's dance.
Gon' rock.
Okay. Let's dance.
Gon' rock.
Okay. Let's dance.
Gon' rock.
Let's dance.
Next up is we've got some new follow action features. Now I've always really struggled to explain how these really work, so let's just dive right in and take a look. They give you the ability to do a bunch of cool things, and namely having clips trigger random clips at any particular time. Now I know you could do this in Live 10, but it takes it a little step further. If I go to my clip here, this little icon will open up the follow action view, and it's introduced the more probability that you can trigger one clip after another. Now at the moment, I've just got this set up to, for this particular clip, to trigger another clip. And any will basically just mean it will trigger any clip within these clip slots. But this unlinked feature is quite cool. It kind of basically means that you can define the length that a clip will play for before it moves on to trigger another clip. And so I have all these percussion loops set up here. And basically what will happen is when I click play, it will just play for one beat before moving on to trigger another clip completely randomly. Which is really good for more generative kind of like, process for performing on stage or just for coming up with random ideas.
Okay.
Oops, I might just trigger one clip at a time here. So it sounds really glitchy and really cool, and basically all it's doing is just jumping from one clip to another after a particular certain time. So the first clip is set to trigger the next one or a random one after one beat. The next one will play for 3 beats. The next one will play for 2, and the last one will play for 1. So I'm kind of always going to be getting a really interesting looped pattern. Hectic. The same now can be said for applying follow actions on scenes. So a scene is essentially a group of clips. And essentially what we can do is we can apply that same method to trigger a whole group of clips, which is really interesting. I've kind of got it to set up to sound a little bit like this. Cool, so the reason why it sounds pretty kind of loose and chaotic and quite sort of random is because I've got it set up that way. I have the follow actions on the scenes will essentially trigger another scene randomly, like another random scene after one beat. Plus, I've also got this percussion loop here set up to randomly trigger another clip within that sequence as well. So this is always going to be kind of dancing around doing its own thing, and the scenes are going to be triggering other scenes doing its own thing. So I kind of get this really interesting, loose sounding kind of performance. So you can see this guy is just dancing around doing his thing, and the scenes are just kind of like dancing around, moving from one scene to another after a few beats. The way I've got it set up is the first scene will trigger another scene after one bar. The next would trigger another one after 2 bars. The next one, scene 3, will be after 4 bars, and the last one will be after 1. So you can always have a very different amount of time for each scene to trigger another one randomly. Something I find really cool and is really interesting for coming up with new and interesting ideas. Look, I know I said 5, here's a bonus round. Let's talk about the hybrid reverb, because you know what? Who doesn't need more gorgeous reverb plugs in their lives? Let's check it out. I have it on the vocal loop here. Let's just take a listen to how it sounds in its default state.
Okay, let's dance.
Gon' rock.
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 Okay, let's dance.
Cool, you get the idea. So it pretty much blends 2 types of reverbs together. It kind of blends convolution reverb and you can change the impulse responses here. There's a whole bunch of them to select, and they all sound pretty nice. And algorithmic reverb as well. This is the blend selector. You can blend from one to the other, and you'll see that the algorithmic reverb sort of goes gray when you go 100% to convolution. And there's different types of algorithms for that you can choose from here. Sounds pretty cool. I actually really like shimmer.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
We have an EQ that we can turn on and off to kind of tailor the sound. But what I find really interesting about this is this window here, which looks a little bit like the audio window in Simpler. And you can actually do what you can in Simpler, which is drag audio into this window that will use that audio as the impulse response for this plug. So let's check it out. I'm just gonna grab that region, drag it in there, cool. And so this is now the audio of the effect that I've currently got this audio on.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
Okay,
Now I can change the decay of that reverb right here, and you'll see that's reflected in the audio. And you can change the size as well. So that's really cool. You can use that as kind of like the impulse response, and it kind of tailors the pitch or something like that of the reverb to the audio that you're working with. I find really cool.
okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
It's really, really wild stuff. Now, obviously there's loads of new features to cover in Live 11, so definitely keep it locked to NoiseGate for more future videos.
Dance.
Thanks for checking out the video. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have any questions, bang them in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
Okay, let's dance.
Gonna rock.
Cool, I reckon that's done. Sound all right? Should I do it again?